I'm looking forward to, of course, getting your insights. So please, thank you.
I thank you very much for the invitation. I'm a fan of your work through our friend in common, Constância Madureira from Brazil too. So she's always talking about you. So I started to see your YouTube interviews and follow your Instagram, your Facebook. So I'm very happy today to have the opportunity to have with you here.
Oh, that's
Thank you
very,
very
very
much.
nice. No, thank you very much. Very nice that at least some people watch what I put out, because I put out so many videos out there. I don't even know if people actually end up watching them, but people do tell me that you're doing a lot of work. But for me, please watch them. That's what is important.
So great videos, and there are some friends of mine. So I saw Tati Lin, I saw Kenneth Cloke. So it was very nice to see them talk, because I don't see them for a long time. After the pandemic time, I didn't travel for 2 or 3 years. So it was nice to see them lecture.
So good, but the online concept is so nice. Now you can connect with everyone. You can see everyone on an everyday basis whenever you want to see them. So I find that, and of course, you are doing work in the online space, which of course you're going to tell us about. So Andrea, I think best is please tell us about yourself and the work that you're doing. But also important thing is you have to tell us about yourself in connection with how heart, soul, and spirituality comes into your life and into mediation. So that also, please.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Andrea Maia. I'm from Brazil. I'm a lawyer as my first profession. I used to be a lawyer for 20 years. I worked as an in-house counsel, and I started to work with mediation about now 12 years ago. In 2010, I discovered mediation. So here in Brazil now is it's noon, 12 in the noon. So today I wake up in the morning and I started to think, what could I talk here about my story with mediation, what I do regarding spirituality. So I'll try to talk about me. So as as soon I left the university, I started to work as an in-house lawyer in the financial market, a very competitive market. But as we talked when we had our first chat last week, something inside me was more collaborative. I like to listening. I like to give people chance to give me that perspective. So even inside this atmosphere or this environment, I managed to build a team, a very collaborative team. So it was funny because in one side we had to work very competitive, but in the other side we managed to have this team, these people who work together with a very collaborative spirit. But after a while, I felt it wasn't the life I would like to have. So I decided to move to work in a commercial aircraft company. When I worked for this company, I learned for the first time about the strategic lawyer. I had a boss, a leader, that family was an engineer. So the first time I worked with a multidisciplinary team. So it was funny because we have an engineer in the law department, but he worked with metrics, with objectives, with a lot of meetings. And he gave me this strategic lawyer paper, and it started to change my life, because inside me, I used to try to see the agreements or the way the lawyer worked as a more collaborative way, and also with this strategic view that you must think about the sustainability of the agreement, you must think about relationship, you must work looking for the solutions that are not good solutions regarding the law aspect, but also the economic aspect, the social aspect. So this is the first time I saw this world. And also we started to work with people from all over the world, because I love the international law, but I didn't have this opportunity before. And in this commercial aircraft company, I started to work and talk with people from a lot of countries, different cultures, and always working as a negotiator. So it was very nice, but after a while, I again decided to have another move. This time I went to work in a family company. So when I started working in this family company, I saw very close the emotional problems, making difficult to people to work together for the efficiency of the company, for the collaborators of the company. So I started to think, oh God, it must have something that I can do, other tools beyond my lawyer tools. So I went to have a dinner with a friend, and again, I have a move in my life or insight, because this friend asked me, have you heard about mediation? And I said, no, I never heard. It was about 13 years ago. So she spoke with me about mediation. As soon as I arrived at home, I started to survey or try to find information about this. And when I saw it, it made a lot of sense for me, for my life, and now so for what I believe as a professional. So I decided to have my first course in mediation. So it was in 2010, between my chat with my friend and the opportunity to have to be in this course, because they have one course per year. So in 2010, I have the opportunity to study mediation, and yes, it really changed my life in a lot of aspects, because it made my life better with my family, with my friends, with me, my conflicts, my self-knowledge. And so I started to use these tools in this family office I work. But after that, I decided that I would like to work only with mediation. It was my goal. So in that time, people said, you are crazy, because you have 20 years a lawyer with a professional background, very established, money, everything. And I said, no, but I will be more happy if I go to work with mediation. And this is my the thing I believe inside me will make my accomplish my idea of life and purpose. So I decided to do this movie. So I went out this company and I started my mediation practice. In a moment in Brazil, few people speak about mediation. 2010 was the beginning of the story in Brazil. We started to talk as a public policy. Only in 2015, we had a law about mediation, which for our kind of culture was important, because without law, people don't use things. I participated in a lot of debates about the necessity of law or not. We became into the conclusion that for our culture, it was important. because people in Brazil give more legitimacy, look with more serious for the tools that you have a lot. So in 2010, no, in 2010, I started my practice. So working not only with mediation, because we didn't have this space in Brazil, but also with negotiation, dispute system design. I discovered it after a while. Collaborative advocacy. So I started my journey in mediation. It was very hard in the beginning because really it was like after 20 years, almost 20 years as a lawyer, I started, I mean, it was like a new profession. Out of people knew me as a lawyer, I have a lot of connections in companies. I put my hat off, sorry, my hat of people who is starting again, of a junior practice. So I started to do voluntary work. I started to study a lot. I started to be a shadow of other mediators. I had the opportunity, thank God, to travel. So I shadowed mediators in London, United States. I studied at Ireland. I went to Harvard. I went to Italy. So I started to try to see how people were doing in other countries, as we didn't have a story here, especially with corporate mediation, because as my background is about corporate law, I thought that working with corporate mediation would be something more easy in this path. So I started to work with corporate mediation and looking for some mentors around the world. And yes, it was very hard in the beginning. A lot of people didn't know about mediation, didn't believe in mediation, especially the corporate sector. But I started to grow, especially in this field of family business, because here in Brazil we have a lot of family business. So the thing is, people mix things, the business and the family shoes, emotions. So after a while, I was an expert in this field. Yeah. But we started to grow here. And then we have now I have other people working. I have my trademark, Mediator 360. And I have people who work with family. We are a net of collaborative mediators. Now we are investing in technology, in platforms of mediation. So my dream became true. I wasn't crazy, I think so, after a while, because now mediation are growing here in Brazil. And regarding the spirituality, I think it's very important to have it, to practice and to have some faith, I believe, because we have to work all the time with conflicts of the other people. Even we practice and we train it, we make the connection with people, we make connection with the conflict, with the what is happening. So I believe it's important to meditate. I have here in my room music. I like to use to learn to listen to music, to mantras. I have my essential oils to have the smells, like make me more relaxed, because I love what I do, but I believe one thing that we need to have faith, always faith, because there are some conflicts that looks like it will not have an end. You will not be able to help these people to change the dynamic, but you never can lose the faith. I believe in it. I don't mind what faith do you have. But you must believe all the time in change of the dynamics, in the good for the people, in the peace. So I'm always trying to work in this with me too. But during this pandemic time, it was much harder. So I'm looking for more forms of self-knowledge, of practice the emotional intelligence. I'm working a lot with that. And I'm always now trying to engage people that work with me, also to take care of their to self-knowledge, to the emotional intelligence, because now it's difficult times. In Brazil, talk about my country, we had a lot of problems with the economy because most of the countries after the pandemic, but people are very sad. Brazilian people normally are very happy and very helpful too. But now you see people more close, more sad. And I believe the conflicts are escalating. And we as a mediators, we had this role of helping people to have another perspective for the conflicts, for the difference, for the difficulties. But I would say that for me, at least, it's hard time too, because I see all this kind of things happening, a lot of companies in bankruptcy or pre-bankruptcy moments. So we see a lot of divorces in Brazil. So we see that this moment of conflict and also uncertainty are, in one hand, we can help people, in other hands, it's hard. I would say so. You need to have this, I think, as a passion to survive these days, and have time for you. So I like to ride a bike sometimes. I like to dive in the sea. I have this this opportunity because I live in Brazil near the beach. So sometimes I go there. I start to free my mind of everything and go inside the sea, the water, the salt, walk and give some time for me. So I hope I answered your question, Vikram.
But now my question is going to be, what mantras are you listening to? I want to understand those. Which one? That's interesting. The mantras are the interesting part.
Yeah, I have a friend who is teaching me to meditate. So she always gives me this Spotify with mantras, but and also music, because I started to study music to give humanity for the online mediations. So I started to study colors and musics that relax people. I have a list here of 10 musics that relax, that the neuroscientists say that it relax. So I use that. I don't know if it's true, but I like to believe that's true. I can send you the list.
Let me tell you, Andrea, tomorrow you're coming to that. We have that discussion on creativity, innovation, and mediation tomorrow. There is a person from Italy who's going to be there. She's working on this aspect only, music and mediation. It'll be very interesting to listen to her. She's got a very, I mean, I've heard her talk about it. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Nice, because after I start to work with innovation and online mediation, we are doing a lot of online mediation. I start to think about things that could help people to be more relaxed, because when you are in person, you have the opportunity to use other tools to make people more relaxed, but in the online you must be creative. So yes, I started to study music, and there are a list of 10 musics. A neuroscientist in Brazil did this list that with musics that they say that relax people. The essential oils, it's only for me. I don't use in the mediation yet, but for me it helps. I have one for energizing, another to relax. Depends on the day, I use the oil. The smells, I think smells help too.
No, but I think why I was talking about the mantras was actually because they're very strong. Mantras are very strong, but you have to pronounce them perfectly. Because the best effect comes of mantras when you can actually pronounce them. And that is one problem that I've noticed. A lot of people can't pronounce them. Even in India, people say that I know this mantra, but when I ask them to recite it, they don't get the pronunciation right. So that you have to be very careful. But if you can pronounce it correctly, very powerful. Mantras can be very powerful. So I think that needs to be something that should be practiced, according to me. But the thing is that, look, you said something inside you felt that you wanted to do this in terms of mediation, and it comes from within. No, we have to reach that within. What is that within, and what is it that connects people to mediation as mediators? So have you explored that part of yourself, and something that you
Sorry,
want to
can you repeat, please?
you said that mediation was something that actually in some way reached inside you. I mean, something that you really wanted to do from within. So what is it within that touches people about as mediators? We're trying to get into that. What is that aspect?
Connected people. I believe empathy.
Inside, yeah. More importantly, the mediator themselves, inside them, their spirituality, their soul, whatever it might be, their heart. First of all, within the mediator itself, what are the elements that you think are important from the mediator's perspective?
From the mediator's perspective.
Yeah.
So, as I told you, the faith. I believe when you have faith, you believe that you can change the dynamics of people. You can think you have a proposal in your life, and that when you work with something that you believe, the chance that you make a good work is better. I believe people see you as something authentic when you have all these tools, not only in the mediation, but also in your way of life. So I started to meditate too, sometimes 2 or 3 years ago. I believe it's important to have a time that you stop and you think what you are doing in your work and what you are doing with your life, what you can do to help the other people, and to connect with yourself. And sometimes understand that you are not in a good day to meditate too, because there are some things that if you are not well with you, you can't be able to make people around you to be well. So I think it's hard sometimes to have the conscience that it's not a good day to meditate, that not all the good days that you are okay and happy and with a good energy. So I think there are some things that you can work to be every day to become a better people and a better mediation and to be connected with your ideals. But there are some days that you are not good, and I think God can help me. I believe in God, my religion, and I think it's important to talk with someone that you respect, God or other kind of thing that you believe. But I believe that it's like when you talk with yourself in a way. And it's nice to believe that there are some energy that helps you. So
because I tell you, Andrea, because you said connecting to yourself. I think we have to get down to what is that self. That is the important part. That what is the self? Who is the self? I think that part we have to really discuss.
The self is that I always like it, also always have this passion, the passion, the love for helping people, to listen people, to know different ways of living, of see perspectives. Maybe because I have a mother and a father with very different backgrounds, very different people, very different families. So I had to cope with that since I was children, always empathize and try to understand the different backgrounds of both religious and different culture, study, different people, one and the other. But I'm the result of this.
You have to tell us about that. This is interesting. What is the different background that they come from? I mean, because this is important, I think.
My father studied a lot. It's a very intellectual person. My mother didn't have this opportunity. And one had one religion, the other had another religion. So one with a big family, with other with a small family, one with a more organized family, others more disorganized family, but they met and here I am. But I'm always trying to see different perspective, empathize with different kind of people, and I always try to listen to understand. So after I had people tell me that my better, the thing that I have, let's say my better tool is that the empathy. I believe this too. So I'm always trying to understand the other, to put in the other shoes. And I love to listen the stories. I love to listen to stories. I like to see different cultures. So that's something that I do with a lot of happiness in my heart. So sometimes I work a lot, but it's not like when I worked in a bank. It's like I'm in the Disneyland or something like that, because it's interesting for me, it's fun for me, it's something that renew me. I'm always changing my perspectives too, I'm always questioning myself. So, and I'm always trying to understand the necessities of my the parts that come to mediation. So, yeah, I believe the connection comes by that. But as I'm working on corporate mediation, I worked a lot to balance these two things, because it's interesting, because people when we talk about the corporate sector, normally in the first view, the businessman, businesswoman don't like to talk about spirituality or the psychological part of mediation, negotiation. And I must have rapport with them, empathy with them. So I normally don't start my my speech talk about this kind of things. But normally after 2 or 3 sessions, especially at the calculus, you see that's important. People start to talk about that. But at least in my experience, when you talk about corporate, it's difficult for people to talk in front of the other part. Normally they talk with me in the calculus, in the private sector, but always people have something that transform after mediation. Transform not only the conflict they have, but the way they cope with their conflicts after the mediation. When people are really engaged in the idea of mediation. There are people that started because we have a clause or something like that, but they don't are totally engaged in that idea of mediation. Sometimes you can make this change, sometimes no. But I see that people don't like to talk about that in the beginning. When you talk about corporate mediation, that's my specialty. Né? When you talk about family, other kinds. But after a while, they relax and they perceive the importance. I'm always taught that even when we talk about negotiation, I try to show cases of big businessmen or their peers that make about the importance of this, the things that are not so assertive or so practical. We had here in Brazil a very famous case about a businessman called Abílio Diniz. I don't know if you heard about this case. He is one of the most rich men in Brazil, one of, not the richest, but one of. And they had a big disagreement with some shareholders that bought. He earned a supermarket chain, a very big supermarket chain. This supermarket was bought by Casino, a global supermarket chain, and they had some issues, and they decided to use mediation to solve the issues. And the mediator was William Uri. He was hired to come to Brazil and help them. And he had a TED talk about this story. I will send you the link afterwards. And Uri said that after talk with Abílio about some sections, he asked Abílio, "What you told me you want to money and your shareholders and shares and some this, but tell me, Abílio, what you really want? You are one of the richest men in Brazil. What Abílio really wants?" And he fought a liberty. So I want liberty to start another company, to be with my family, because I'm always in this conflict, think about how to, in the fight and everything. If you see the TED Talk, Uri talk about that, because after a while, Abílio wrote a biography, And one of the chapters are dedicated to the mediation in his life, how it changed. So, but in the beginning, he didn't talk about liberty and this kind of thing. But after a while, everything humans, everybody has the same necessities. It's something that you learn during the journey. But talk about spirituality for me is very important. Sometimes the parts don't think in the same way in the beginning, but after some walking the path, they start to see this importance. And this story of Abini, it's very interesting. I use a lot because he is a very respected person, and he wrote in a book, so it's not confidential what he spoke, because sometimes we had this problem because people tell things that we can't share with others. But this story, he was so happy and so proud of the after resolving his problem in the mediation that he wrote a book, and Uri was able to talk about that in a TED Talk that people here in Brazil see.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I have to read this, but what, this is in Portuguese or is it in English also?
The TED Talk is in English. The book is in Portuguese, but Uri tells this story in a TED Talk that he tells the story about his work here in Brazil. I will send you this link.
Perfect. So that's interesting. I think this is really what is required, actually. People talking about the experiences. I think that's the most important part. And then people from there connect to it themselves, and they can relate to it. Because I had just done one episode of that. There's something called Mediation Works. So I had a general counsel talking about his experience, because I think those are the things that have to go out in terms of people's experiences. But otherwise, I mean, in terms of the connection, that energy, use the word energy also. So have you really thought about what that energy is? I mean, have you looked at that?
I believe it's very renewal when you finish a mediation and you have an agreement, that you see that people really change the dynamic. It's very hard during the way. Another day, one of the parts in a mediation told me, "Wow, it's looked like I run it 20 kilometers after the session." But because sometimes it's hard to put all these feelings in the table, to cope with the feelings, with the necessities and perspectives and the conflicts. But when you started to change the dynamics, and in the end, you see two brothers that don't speak to speak, or two friends that was fighting to speak, to change their lives, and after they send other friends to mediate. A lot of people didn't know what mediation was. They used mediation, they became happy, and after they send another people to mediation. So the energy, when you have the agreement, we change the dynamic, it's very good. When you don't do that, it's interesting, because even when you found that it's something professional, it's work, it's like you became a little bit frustrated. I feel that. I'm working on that with me. But sometimes I think, oh my God, they could have changed this dynamic. I see that they could, but it's not the moment. So you must work with yourself to understand that's not your choice, it's their choice. But in the end of the tunnel, the importance is that I believe that, helping people or the world to be better. I like to believe that. Better, especially for my son in the future. So I believe that conflicts are necessary for our lives to have the changes, but people could cope better with the conflicts. When you change your perspective of the conflict, you live better, you have better relationships. I'm always study the idea of happiness now, and a point that always people say that's important when you talk about happiness is good relationships. To have good relationships, you must understand that you have differences, and the difference can be something to learn, to make evolution. You don't need to see differences or conflicts in a bad way. That is normal, at least here in our culture. So in the end of the day, I'm happy when I see that I made at least one person to change their perspective of conflict. Conflict can be something good and should be something good.
But I think now connecting people's, I mean, reaching out to, first of all, reaching out to their heart and soul, and then connecting people through their heart and soul, and the mediator connecting them. So that dynamics of it, I mean, have you really, I mean, of course you've experienced it, but have you really looked at it from the putting words to it as to how that happens, what happens?
I believe one things that help people is communication. The non-violence communication from Marshall Rosenberg, I believe is something that helps people. I practice every day in my life to communicate better, because we are always, sometimes we are emotional, we do something wrong. People sometimes ask me, oh, Andrea, you never fight with your family, your son, your boyfriend, and say, oh yes, I fight because I have my emotions, and sometimes they are stronger than me, and I'm not all. Every day I'm learning. The important thing is to learn from the moments you don't communicate well, that the emotion make you do some things that you regret. So I believe it's important to communicate well with people, to use a lot of CNV, the non-violent communication. And try to understand the world of these people. So if these people like music, I try to connect by music. If they like the family is important, I try to connect it by family. Everybody has something that connects them. For instance, I work a lot with the family business. Sometimes I work with couples that divorced, they're separated, and they have to split the company too. All the time I try, when they have son or daughter, when they have children, I say, oh, you must think that you have a big, something that connects you for your life. So let's look for the thing that you have in common. I know that now you don't have it. You have things that you have different ways of life, but you are a couple, you have children, and this company is the thing that can give you wealth for you, school for your children, food for your table. So let's think about this kind of things that are needs for everybody. So I try to connect people, talk about try to reach their necessity, like the freedom of aborigines, like family. There are some things in our life that connect everybody around the world, including me during the mediation. So I try to coach them to communicate better and to look for their needs. I work in the beginning of my practice, I was very practical, but during these 12 years, I learned the importance to work with about their self-knowledge, what they really want. Sometimes people think they know what they want, but they don't know what they want. They are looking only for the superficial of the iceberg. So even me, I'm always doing this with me too, because sometimes you don't stop. You are always doing something, especially now with this connection with digital world and computer, WhatsApp, and a lot of things happening. You must have a time to stop, look inside you, understand what you can do better for these people, what you can do better for you, and find the needs of them and my need all the time too. I hope I answered you. I don't know if I mentioned.
No, perfectly all right. That's the whole idea. We need all kinds of things, inputs coming in. But now that you're working in the online space, this whole platform that you're making, now in terms of connection between people, I mean, do you think the online world changes that? Is there anything different there, or the people connecting with each other remains the same?
Yeah, I think it's changed. It's a different form. It's a different kind of connection. It connects, but it's in a different way. As a professional, I had to stop and think a lot about what do difference in this setting. I started looking for me, what makes me more comfortable. And after I started to understand what would make people more comfortable in this setting. Because as I told, cope with conflicts are hard for a lot of people. It's not easy for me, but I think about after this working with mediation for 12 years, I walked a little bit. There are people that have a lot of difficulty with conflicts, especially when we have a conflict with someone that you like or respect. So it's very hard for some people to go to mediation. And in Brazil, it's not something that people used to do 5 years ago. It's something new here. I'm always say that mediation is something very secular, but Brazil is new. But so it's harder for people to go to mediation, and for people that don't use technology, it becomes more uncomfortable. So I start to think what I could do for them and for me to work online, because I used to work online, but when you start to work online every day, all the day, it is not easy to, because in the beginning, at least I start to look for me, look at my face all day. So you start to perceive all your face language. So you in the beginning was difficult because all the time I try to focus on the parts, but I saw my face and oh my God, I shouldn't do that. Oh my God, I shouldn't do that. So after a while, it became acquaintance with that. But I believe that for people that don't use to use technology, it's something that's difficult for them. So I started to think about how I could help these people and help me to make this environmental more less hard. So I started to use music, and I started to use colors. I started to use small videos to send to people to explain mediation. I try to make it soft because sometimes we had a bunch of conflicts to solve. We had a lot of problems with real estate here in Brazil. I had to call more than 300 people to mediate.
Yeah.
So I said, oh my God, how we can give some personal, some personal feeling in that. So me and my team start to make videos, make something that could connect that people. So we went to look for poetry, to colors, to design. We started to use a lot of visual documents. So I have a term of mediation that's in write, and I have a term of mediation that's all visual with design and colors. And I believe in that way we can help people to make more soft, more relaxed for this setting here. We search a lot to define what kind of platform we should use, because there are people that think that Zoom or Teams or Google Meets are friendly, but there are people that don't know how to use this platform. So we started to search something that people don't need to have an app or something like that, something that is easier to enter. So I use a lot of the Zoom for classes and speeches, but sometimes depends on the person who are in the other side. I use some platforms that are more easy to administrate. Don't have so many tools, but it's easier for the other person on the other side. And you can use more colors. I can customize that. So I try to customize here to focus on the face of the person, to use some humor, to use some apps, some I use the Mediator, Miro, these apps that you can use the wheel of names, that it can make the dynamics more friendly, more, you can make people laugh in the beginning, and of course it depends on the kind of conflict, but try to break the ice. So you lose something in the setting of online mediation, but you earn other things, because you can use all these apps and different gamification. I don't know if you use this name, but kind of games that make people connect and be motivated to solve the problem. So you have a lot of tools to brainstorming that are very nice here. And I started to study it for my classes and for my mediations. And it's became funny sometimes. I believe you must try to make the atmosphere more light. So you can do that. And I try to talk with people to have water, to have food sometimes. But always I used to have a day mediation when it was presential. Online, I believe you needed to make it shorter, to have more breaks. So it's different. So you must prepare differently. I believe a lot of people just thought that, oh, what I do in person, I will do here. I don't believe in that. I believe you must think about how you make people here to be more confident too. We have the problem with the confidential issues. Some people that are not don't like technology sometimes. How you make it confidential, everything that we talk here. So there are a lot of things that you must think when you do online mediation. But it's nice because it's something to work in. I believe it's nice for us mediators to to have evolution all the time. So it's something that is make you not be comfortable. You're always trying to exercise your creativity, to change. I believe you never can stop to change. And I discovered the user experience idea. I start to work with technology and people from technology, and all the time now I try to think about the user. So it's nice. And the user is not me, the user are the parts.
Exactly. But the important thing is that can you connect to the heart and soul on an online situation? You say, yeah. Do you see
I believe
that?
yes, but it's in another way. So you must be more creative. And for me, at least, I need more time for preparation to think what will connect with these people online. So what I can use with this user, with these parts that will connect with them, and that will make them comfortable too with the people, with the other parts, because they don't want to show that they are not comfortable. So you must help people to be comfortable and look comfortable, or look comfortable and be comfortable. So I think it's more time of preparation. You must think about a lot of details. It's possible to connect, but as it's not something natural for me, at least. I didn't start my practice online, I start in person. So it's harder, but it's possible. And I think even when I teach at online, to have the attention of my class, of my students, I had to study a lot. I still study all the time. What I can do for them to not sleep during the class. So colors, music, images, visual, jokes, and like I told you, poesy or some music that connect with them. You must think about the user. When I speak with more younger people, I put other kind of music Sometimes I put some trends of Instagram, something that make them that connect with them, and after I give my speech. But before, you must take their attention. And when you are alive in person, for me it's easier. But I must work with this new world, with these necessities. Like I told you, I must think about the user. The person is in the other side. So I believe it's possible.
Because what is going to happen is that all that you've spoken out about today, you have to speak about the same thing tomorrow also. Because the creativity, innovation, and mediation, definitely these aspects will come out. But another thing I might forget, I have to send out a message to all the speakers. On 29th, we'll have a session on the key takeaways and learnings from the symposium at 7:30 India time. So please be part of that also. Please note it down, because I should have sent a message. I haven't maybe just got time to do that. So that's going to be important. Just to, I mean, of course, but which means that please watch the other sessions, and then whatever you pick up.
I was in the last session looking for the Nigerian speech, and I will be here to see the other ones. I'm very motivated. It's very interesting, all the work you are doing, Vikram. I was talking with Constanza, this Woodstock of mediation, and as I told you, I love the cultural differences. So it's nice to see people from all over the world talk about mediation, the style of talking, the style of mediation, the different perspectives, different segments, different types of work, cooperation, community, family, and everything. So great.
But let me tell you that you just said Woodstock of mediation. That, of course, the symposium. But now Constantia, last time I was speaking to her, she used the word, she said, this is now the Disneyland of mediation.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's very nice. Yeah, but a lot of content. I'm learning a lot, and a lot of people that I admire. So it's very, very important to us, mediators, to hear the other voices.
But which means, Andrea, you also have to click that share button and please share this thing with people. Let's bring it, take it out to people, and let everyone benefit from it. Because I mean, if all of you are putting out all this, I mean, you're taking out time to put it all out, a lot of people will benefit from it. So I just keep telling people, just what is it? Now I've started saying, one click for you, a giant leap for mediation. So all I say is just so that's how it is. But yeah, exactly. But now, please, again, I keep saying this concluding remark, but concluding remark for this session. Of course, heart, soul, spirituality, and mediation. There are a lot of discussions which will happen. So concluding that definitely will not be easy. So what would you really want to message that you would want to send out, please?
Oh my God, the message is that thank you very much to be here. And if you believe you have your soul and your beliefs work with mediation, go for your dream. When you believe in your dream, everything became happening. And I was very frightening when I started, because I had, as I told you, a profession, and all my peers told me I was crazy. But if you believe in what you do, if you love what you do, the universe help you to achieve your goal. So you that are listening here, if someone that have some doubts, that are starting mediation, go for that. Because if it's inside you, it will help, and it will happen. You will work happy and make other people happy, and have your professional achievements accomplished. I believe that.
Which means just listen to your heart, and that will be good for your soul. That's how it is.
Yeah, that's it. I have a good phrase here, but it's in Portuguese. But the thing you think or desire that you can, it has the power and the magic to happen. The universe, something like that.
The universe will make it happen. Yeah, okay. The universe will make it happen.
So
A good thought. I think that's a good thought, and that's the way it should be. So, thank you, Andrea, and I'm seeing you tomorrow
see
on
you
that
tomorrow.
discussion.
Thank you for the opportunity. Bye.